We set the record straight on your emails. Did you downplay the possibility that the virus came from a lab in China for political reasons?
Oh, absolutely not. And let's go back and talk about that. I mean, that's obviously an accusation that I have to tell you mildly is preposterous. Right from the very beginning, when there was an issue of some people who looked at the virus and said, you know, there's something about the virus that maybe it looks like it might have actually been manipulated. And what we did is that they mentioned it to me. I called together a group of people and said, let's take a look at this and just make sure, get some virological, phylogenetic, evolutionary biologists together to take a look at it. This was back at the very beginning of February. Looked at it, had a good discussion and said some people thought maybe it looked like it was a virus that was manipulated and could have leaked. And most of the people thought what all of us were thinking at the time, that it was very likely a natural evolution. But we never ruled out the possibility, and we were very open about it. It wasn't like we were just trying to hide anything.
That's Dr Anthony Fauci appearing on the Wall Street Journal's Tech Health event, where he tells Jonathan Rockoff he didn't downplay the possibility that coronavirus came from a lab in China for political reasons. Fauci calls this an accusation and says it's widely preposterous. The White House's top infectious diseases expert said early into the pandemic, when the theory came to attention, he gathered a group of scientists to look into it, but the consensus was that it was more likely COVID-19 originated from a natural evolution, such as an animal that transmitted to humans. He says, however, they never ruled out the possibility completely. Dr Fauci hasn't been fronting the media after finding himself in a series of scandals. Last week, BuzzFeed published 3,200 of Dr Fauci's emails. The emails span from January to June of last year while the US grappled with the pandemic. The main takeaway from the emails is that Fauci was quick to dismiss the Wuhan lab leak theory. A Californian virologist named Christian Anderson wrote to Dr Fauci in February last year, where he said the virus likely emerged from a lab leak because it looks engineered. Anthony Fauci addressed this in his chat with the Wall Street Journal, where he says while Christian Anderson initially thought the virus could be from a lab leak in February, he later joined the chorus of other scientists who believed a natural cause was more likely.
So then what we did is we got some very talented, experienced people to really carefully look at the molecular configuration of it. And after a while, and then there's that story that got into the emails where Christian Anderson, who first had thought that perhaps it might be something that was suspicious in that it could have been manipulated, after looking at it very carefully and examining it, came to the conclusion that most of the scientific community felt that this was very likely a natural occurrence from an animal reservoir to a human. And in fact, he wrote first a preliminary paper in a preprint journal in February of 2020, and then a very good paper in one of the best journals around, Nature Medicine, in March 2020, saying that looking at this very carefully, he feels very strongly that the highly likely that this is a natural outcome. But in all of those scenarios, John, there was always an open mind that it could be something else. So you can have a strong opinion, but not necessarily rule out anything else. And as a scientist, you always keep things open.
While Dr Fauci claims he and other scientists were always operating an open mind to every theory, many people believe the chief medical officer did not look closely into the lab leak theory. President Donald Trump and his administration raised the concern throughout 2020 that the virus could have been leaked from a Chinese lab. An email exchange between a doctor named Peter Daszak and Dr Fauci showed Dr Daszak thanking Dr Fauci for downplaying the theory publicly. This is because Dr Daszak has ties to the Institute of Virology. His organisation received grants totalling over $600,000 from Dr Fauci's agency, the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases. Dr Daszak's organisation later used that funding to pay the Wuhan Institute of Virology, a lab that studied bat coronaviruses. Many people have called for Dr Fauci's resignation, believing he does not carry out his job accordingly. Candace Owens last week tweeted that firing Fauci does not go far enough and that he needs to be tried and put in federal prison. White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki, however, shut down any reports Fauci would be fired.
Since you mentioned Dr. Fauci again, can you imagine any circumstance where President Biden would ever fire him?
No. Go ahead.